Now you guys know me. I am not one to hate on Star Wars, I never have and I never will. But I think it's time we talk about The Mandalorian. Season 3 shouldn't exist. Now, to understand what I'm about to say, we have to take it back to the start. Now, I consider Season 1 of The Mandalorian to be the quintessential best thing that Disney Star Wars has ever done. It's this spaghetti western set in space that isn't connected to the rest of the Skywalker saga. It exists on its own without the crutch of the trilogies. This is as good as Star Wars would have ever gotten. From everything it has established in the first season, it merits a second one. Now, Season 2, I consider to be almost on par as the first. It dives more into the Jedi, and that's cool. It is a bit more outside of the established loner story, but I was fine with that. It builds on everything in the first season, and most importantly, it wraps itself up incredibly well. Mando's arc comes to a close. Even though he forms an attachment to Baby Yoda, he delivers him to a Jedi. He delivers him to Luke, accomplishing his task that he set out to do across the 2 seasons. This is good. This wraps the season off nicely. It's a satisfying end to the story. If everything ended here, I would have been more than satisfied. Quit while you're ahead. End on a high note. And then Boba Fett happened. I don't know what the fart happened here. This isn't even a part of Mando, except it is. For some reason, 2 episodes out of the show just become a different show. It's literally season 2.5. And I don't know how it does it, but it manages to undo all of season 2 in a few episodes. All that emotion, all that bonding, the sadness of the separation, all of that was dismantled and thrown out the window in the worst way possible. It's not even this ceremonious reunion that equates to the initial separation. One second Mando is doing war in a desert, the next Baby Yoda appears behind a corner. They gloss over it so fast. Like, oh, they're just back together now. Like nothing happened. This is like the #1 sin when writing television. Never undo the effects of a previous season in the beginning of the current one. But it gets worse. They don't even pull this twaddle in the right show. They do it in a separate show. That's just another level of bad. If you didn't watch the Boba Fett show and you just wanted to watch season 3 right after the second one, you're gonna be like, wait, what? Why are they back together now? I thought they split up in the last season. I think this is Disney's weird way of getting people to watch their stinky shows, by shoehorning in incredibly important stuff from a show that people might actually enjoy. Like, no one is going out there and saying their favorite piece of Star Wars was the Boba Fett show. And to try and boost the viewership of that dumpster fire, they were like, okay, let's throw Mando in there so people might actually watch this. And this little mini arc in the Book of Boba Fett somehow justified a season 3 to happen because we have to know what happens next. But what story are we going to follow now? They're just kind of back together, but we don't really have a purpose. Like before, Din had to get Grogu to a Jedi. Now, we don't have anything. You know what? No. Let's picture it. We are the writers. We are in the writer's room, and we have just been told we have to come up with something for season 3. Where is this story going? Let's think. Where do we go? What do we do? Okay. I have one. I have an idea. Maybe Din has to redeem himself after like taking off his helmet. That's a good idea. I like this idea. Is that going to span the whole season? You know what? We'll just go with it for now and we'll come up with something later. Okay. By the second episode, Din is fully redeemed, but we still have 6 more episodes to go. So what's the point of this season? Mando is fully redeemed, his story is kind of over, he's just hanging out now. And this brings me to the larger issue with this season. There is no real purpose. The previous 2 actually had one. Mando was supposed to get Baby Yoda to a Jedi. That was his task. Now that we are in the 3rd season, that whole storyline has ended. We're just aimless now because no new storyline has been presented from the start. And the one that we had kind of ended after the 2nd episode, so let's just do some side quests to fill time. Now, I wouldn't be mad if these side quests did something. Like in the previous seasons, they also had side quests, which is fine. I have no issues with side quests. But at the end of the day, the side quests helped us achieve the main goal. Mando had this overarching task that needed to be achieved, and the side quests helped him achieve it. Now we're just doing them for the hell of it, because we have nothing else to do. There's no purpose. It's like the writers must have been scrambling for ideas just to fill 8 episodes. I'm being serious here. One of the episodes consisted of a kid getting kidnapped by a giant bird and then them fighting the bird for an entire episode. Like, what? Why did the writers write this? That has done nothing. You can make an argument that it was for this dude to finally trust Mando, but I guess, like, come on, do we really need an entire episode to establish this one point? I mean, this could work if the season was like 20 episodes long, but it's not. It's 8. And the first time a real story starts to take shape is in this Easter egg-packed penultimate episode. If the last 2 are for the real story, then what were the other 6 for? You know what? I'll excuse the first 2 for Din. You know, he had to take his bath. So then what was the middle chunk of the show about? The middle 4 episodes, what was that about? I'll tell you. The first one was this Coruscant episode with the scientist dude, which went nowhere. And then we had 3 side quests back to back to back, and only one of them matter, the one with Lizzo, because of the ending. It's where things are finally starting to take shape for the final 2 episodes. I'm beginning to think there was a secret writer strike happening when this was being made, because Jesus Christ, virtually nothing happens. The way the whole season is framed is the definition of basic. Nothing experimental, nothing original. I was genuinely halfway through the show and I still didn't see the purpose of this season. Like, nothing of any real substance has happened. We're just existing. There is no plot. Now let's talk about the Mandoverse. This is my biggest problem with this whole thing. The fact that this season is only a setup for future projects, for Ahsoka, for the Mando movie, for more Boba Fett, for everything to converge into one thing. This is what I don't want. I hate this Marvelification of everything. We don't need everything to tie into everything else. Oh, we're talking about Thrawn? Oh, he's in the Ahsoka trailer. And I expect this with Marvel, but we don't need this for Star Wars. The Mandalorian has been established as this standalone entity. It exists in its own space, and that's why we liked it. That's why we watched, because it didn't connect into everything. Originally, it had little to do with the Skywalker saga, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. And now they want to connect it into the grander verse. They want to connect everything together. Now we have Thrawn and the Praetorian Guards. All I ask is that they leave Andor untouched. That's all I want. And I'll be real with you, I'm not really that excited for Ahsoka. I don't know what it is about the recent projects that are not Andor, but they all look really cheap and fan-made. And sadly, Mando is headed down this road, because now we're just tying everything together. We got Zeb here and Sabine in the Ahsoka trailer along with Ezra. It feels like Dave Filoni is just doing what he thinks will work, just slamming all of these legacy characters together, which will all end in his own Star Wars movie. The conclusion of the Mandoverse. I really don't like this. It's based on hype and nostalgia from older characters, and that doesn't really work. That's why Andor does work. Almost everything is original, and it forces Lucasfilm to actually be creative. It's like they know they can throw a whole bunch of legacy characters together and people will watch. They can be lazy because they know it works. They know people will tune in just for older characters to come back. Mando is slowly going down the same rabbit hole and will eventually look like Kenobi. Mark my words, Kenobi is a perfect example of everything I've said so far. They think that nostalgia will carry the show, so they don't really have to try. And the people that still say that Dave Filoni the GOAT, Dave Filoni the GOAT, he should have executive powers over all of Star Wars. He knows what Star Wars really is. Really? I mean, he's kind of fallen off from how I see this. I feel like that the more people praise him, the more he doesn't know what to do. Because before the Clone Wars, he wasn't that big. You know, he could lay low and do something special. But now, everyone knows him. And he just thinks, what do people want to see? Big monster, Easter eggs, another big monster, more Easter eggs, more big monsters, Jack Black. Those are the only things he can do successfully. Side quests, big monsters, Easter eggs, and Jack Black. And wait, I don't want to put all of this on his shoulders alone. Jon Favreau is also to blame. Everything I've said so far also applies to him. And apparently he's already finished writing season 4. It must have taken him like 20 minutes, Jesus. And episode 7 is a perfect example of this. It is just jam-packed with Easter eggs. Thrawn, Project Necromancer, clones, Praetorian Guards, General Hux. All of these things to try and get you hyped after this mid-season. But this isn't what The Mandalorian is. They are doing all of this for the wrong show, because with how Easter eggs work, I get so hyped for Praetorian Guards that I stop caring about the rest of the show. All I want want to see are the red guys. They name drop all of these juicy goods and expect us to care about Bo-Katan. Like, come on. Now, doing this in the Ahsoka show makes a bit more sense, but not here. The Mandalorian used to have this slower, more relaxed edge to it. Yeah, that's gone. Din himself takes a backseat in this season because he doesn't have anything to do. He just intervenes occasionally. This is more a season about Bo-Katan and Mandalore, which I guess they are also Mandalorians, but that doesn't fit the speed or the format that this show has been established as. These little bounty hunts? Adventures, these episodic adventures with some grander overarching goal driving our characters. But what is the focus of this season? To reclaim a dead planet? But then also Gideon is back and he's cosplaying as a Mandalorian, and he's on Mandalore, but what is he doing? It is just events. There is a battle here and a battle there, but there's no narrative. I feel like the writers knew they were gonna end it after season 2, but then Boba Fett happened, and we're like, oh shoot, we gotta make something up, and then they went buck wild, and we're like, okay, let's just try to connect this into the sequels. Even the finale feels weak. The last 2 episodes feel like they were a part of a different show. There was little build-up, little intrigue, it's so rushed. You are not invested in what's actually going on. Like, Gideon dies, but it carries nothing with it. The death doesn't feel earned. Neither Din or Bo-Katan lands the final blow. There's no satisfaction from this kill. What does it is some random Mandalorian that crashed a ship into the planet. That's so random. We don't have a connection to the ship. I want to see Din and Bo-Katan teaming up and obliterating Gideon together. Besides his death, they undercut the hell out of Gideon. He got like 40 minutes of screen time at most, and half of that he was wearing a helmet. The dude was barely there, and that further contributes to how impactless, is that a word? Well, it is now, how impactless his death was because of, well, not really being in the show. I don't even want to get into these 2012 Disney show lab rat sets. Like, what is going on here? Listen, I don't want to nitpick, but these doors don't even open evenly. Like, they just really don't care anymore. There's like, okay, go with it, it's whatever. Are we really stealing the same work ethic from Kenobi now? And this cheapness extends from the posters to the Mandalorians themselves. The armor is all the same with simple color changes. There's no real uniqueness. Like, this guy, that's unique. Show me some engravings. Show me some different styles of helmets. Show me something. But what's even worse is that the quality of the armor just looks worse. Like, the Beskar looks a lot cheaper than it did in season 1, but this extends even past the Mandalorians to the Praetorian Guards. These are the budget versions. The suits look like they were made for television, and from the fight choreography to the editing to the cuts, it all looks buns. Just look at this scene. Regardless of the fight choreography, look how well this is shot, how atmospheric the room is, these beautiful long takes, the way the camera moves around the room, the way the scene is composed. It is meant to sweep you into the room. Our protagonists are perfectly centered. It's as if we have 2 fight scenes happening on each half of the screen. They are the focal point of the shot. We are forced to pay attention to them, and most of all, it feels organic and real. Then look at this. This is garbage. And yes, one is from a movie, but look at Andor. That's also a show, and it looks just as good as the movies. Andor has set a precedent for the shows. This has set the bar, and when we regress back down to this, it's almost embarrassing to be a Star Wars fan. Like, this is not acceptable anymore when we know these shows can reach the quality of Andor. Like, are we joking ourselves? And this extends into a different topic, one regarding the volume and set design, which is a whole nother video entirely. But cinematography, for me especially, is one of the most important parts of film. If I can't visually connect to a story, then it's over. If I'm watching something like Andor, I get immersed in this world, and it only helps the story being told. Now, when I watch something like season 3, I just start cringing because this looks so cheap. It pulls you out of the experience. This is amateur. It's not immersing anyone. I can't get invested into the story if I'm just cringing at how cheap everything looks. And Star Wars has always had this unique charm to it, with puppets that look a bit off, costume heads that look a bit goofy, and that's fine. That's the charm. But you can't really have goofy looking puppets and also bad green screen. It cheapens it so much more. Like, the Baby Yoda puppet is cute, and I'll excuse it, but I'm not excusing this terrible cinematography. Like, tell me this is good. Tell me you like this. And apparently the season 1 cinematographer, Greg Fraser, left the production after season 1, and it is incredibly noticeable. The guy that made Mando look like Mando, he's gone. You know, and I'll excuse season 2, it wasn't that bad, but season 3, Jesus Christ. David Klein, What are you doing? David Klein? You guys don't know David Klein? Let me tell you guys about David Klein. Well, the last movie he was the cinematographer for was a movie called The Red State, which came out in 2011. I'm not gonna harp on that too much. He's worked on a few TV shows since. That's a majority of his filmography, if you want to call it. But the least surprising thing about his entire career is that he was the cinematographer for some of the episodes of, yep, you guessed it, the Book of Boba Fett. Why am I not surprised? I thought it was pretty well established that The Mandalorian was of a higher quality than the Book of Boba Fett. This was Lucasfilm's golden child. Is that how you say it? I don't know. It's the thing they cared about most. Not anymore, apparently. I guess Andor took that spot, and now Mando is just like the rest of these shows. Just like Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett. And you want to know something else? The writers forgot about plot points they set up earlier in the show. Remember that spy that they were setting up in episode 5? The one that they were teasing was a Mandalorian? Well, they never do anything with that. We as the audience are supposed to see that and go, oh no, who's the spy? But nothing ever comes of it. No one is a spy. And you can make the argument that this was supposed to be a red herring, but it's just not. A red herring is supposed to mislead you and send you in a different direction in which you're not supposed to go in. But the thing is, this little detail goes nowhere. It doesn't send you in the wrong direction, it just stops once the episode is over. An easy way to fix this would be to have the pilot dude tell Din about his suspicions that one of the Mandalorians might be a traitor, and have Din start to question the others, and then it's later revealed that Gideon had soldiers decked out in Beskar. That is a good misdirect, but that's not what happens. It's not a red herring. It's more the writers forgot they wrote that part, or had no idea what to do with it, so they just hoped we'd forget. But in the end, the one positive I have is that I have hope for a season 4. They do seem to be going back to the season 1 style, just Mando and Grogu, back to the old space western. And that is the one good thing that has come out of all of this. This is hopefully the worst the Mandalorian is gonna get. We've hit our rock bottom. Only place to go now is up. This is the biggest disappointment since the Kenobi show. Mando season 3 shouldn't exist.